Good morning, everyone. We have started with the topic that is fibrinolytic agents and the antiplatelet drugs, and in that we have finished with the first point, that is fibrinolytic agents. And in the antiplatelet drugs, we have studied two categories of drugs. That is, the first category is COX inhibitors. Example is the aspirin, and the second category of drugs that we have studied, that is the inhibition of the ADP action on the platelet aggregation. And in that first drug that we have seen, that is the clopidogrel. Okay, so this all we have studied till now. Now we are going to study the next drug in that is prasugrel. Okay, so this all we have studied. So prasugrel is a newest member of the thienopyridine class, and it is a product that requires a metabolic activation in the liver. Okay, so however, because the activation of prasugrel is more efficient than that of the clopidogrel, it has more rapid onset of action, and it produces greater and more predictable inhibition of ADP induced platelet aggregation. So as a drug, this drug is better than that of the clopidogrel due to its rapid onset of action and greater and more predictable inhibition of ADP-induced platelet aggregation. Okay, so it is a better drug than that of clopidogrel. So it is rapidly and completely absorbed from the gut. That is, its administration is done by oral route. Then it is hydrolyzed in intestine to the thiolactone, which is then converted to the active metabolite in the liver. Virtually all of the absorbed prasugrel, it undergoes activation. By comparison, only 15% of absorbed clopidogrel, it undergoes metabolic activation. Okay, so because active metabolites of prasugrel, they bind irreversibly to the P2Y12 receptor, its effect lasts the lifetime of the platelets. The reason to this is that it is written over here that this word is very important. It binds irreversibly. That means the bond that gets formed between the prasugrel and the P2Y12 receptor, it is a kind of covalent bond and which can't be broken. So it will only be broken when the platelets they degrade or they die. Okay, so this slow offset of action can be problematic if patients require urgent surgery. Okay, so prasugrel, it is inactivated by methylation or conjugation with the cysteine. Okay, so conjugation reaction, that is the phase 2 reactions that happen in the liver, by which prasugrel it gets inactivated. Okay, so moderate renal or hepatic impairment, it does not appear to change the drug pharmacodynamics. Okay, so it means that in moderate renal and hepatic impaired patients, we can give the prasugrel as a antiplatelet drug. So the therapeutic uses of it, it is indicated to reduce the rate of thrombotic cardiovascular events, which include the stent thrombosis in patients with acute coronary syndrome who are managed with percutaneous coronary intervention. Okay, the incidence of cardiovascular death, myocardial infarction, and stroke is significantly lower with prasugrel than with that of the clopidogrel. Mainly, it reflects a reduction in the incidence of non-fatal myocardial infarction. Okay, so the incidence of stent thrombosis is also lower with prasugrel than with that of the clopidogrel. So what is this stent thrombosis? You may have heard about one of the surgery, that is the angioplasty. Okay, so angioplasty is done in those patients whose one or more coronary arteries they are blocked due to the uh, deposition of cholesterol into the vessel wall. Okay, so these stents they are like mesh like structures which are inserted in these arteries, and they keep the that particular lumen of that artery patent. That means it keeps that lumen of the artery open for the flow of the blood. If stent is not there, then it will just cause obstruction to the flow, but stent it actually resolves that particular obstruction. Okay, so as stent is externally inserted, there is probability that when the platelets come in contact with this particular stent material, it can undergo or it will get injured. Okay, it will feel like that it has interacted with the collagen and it will initiate the thrombotic events. Okay, so this is nothing but the stent thrombosis. Okay, so the adverse effects of the prasugrel it include, it is associated with higher rates of fatal life-threatening bleeding than the clopidogrel. So because patients with history of a prior stroke or transient ischemic attack are at particular high risk of intracranial bleeding, the drug is contraindicated in such patients. So the patients over 75 years of age should not be prescribed prasugrel because of increased bleeding risk. Okay, so after a loading dose of 60 milligram, prasugrel is given once daily at a dose of 10 milligram. The daily dose should be reduced to 5 milligram in patients who are weighing less than 60 kilograms. Okay, so instead of 10 milligram, we have to use 5 milligram because the weight is less. Okay, so no dose adjustment is required in patients with hepatic or renal impairment. So that part we have already seen in the pharmacokinetic part of this of its pharmacology. So if patients present with serious bleeding, platelet transfusion may be beneficial. It has been reported to cause thrombotic thrombocytopenic purpura. Okay. So next is the thrombin receptor antagonist. It is known that the thrombin, when it gets formed, apart from conversion of fibrinogen to the fibrin thread, it also promotes the platelet aggregation. Okay, and it promotes platelet aggregation by acting on its receptor which is present on platelet. Okay, so which receptors are present? That is, the first receptor is PAR1 and second receptor is PAR4. Okay, so when thrombin binds to this G protein coupled receptors and it cleaves them at their amino terminals. Okay, so newly created amino terminals, then they serve as tethered ligands to activate the receptors. So basically it is not the thrombin that acts as a ligand, it is the cut amino acid portion or amino terminal of these receptors. It acts as tethered ligand. Okay, so the PAR1 is activated by lower concentrations of thrombin than are required to activate the PAR4. It means that at lower concentrations also the PAR1 is activated, but to activate PAR4 higher concentrations of thrombin are required. So we have the drug that acts as thrombin receptor inhibitor, that is Vorapaxar. Okay, so this Vorapaxar is a competitive antagonist of PAR1 receptor. Why we require antagonist of this PAR1 receptor? The sentence which we have studied in earlier slide, the last sentence, PAR1 at low concentration, PAR4 at higher concentration. So if a drug inhibits or antagonizes PAR1, it is going to antagonize the PAR4 also. Okay, so understand this correlation. And by antagonizing the PAR1, it inhibits the thrombin induced platelet aggregation. So the drug is 90% bioavailable, and it has a rapid onset of action and a circulating half-life of 3 to 4 days. So however, because Vorapaxar remains tightly bound to the PAR1 on platelets, its effect on thrombin-induced platelet aggregation can persist for up to 4 weeks after the drug is stopped. Okay, so Vorapaxar, it is metabolized in liver by the most popular enzyme, that is CYP3A4. Okay, so therapeutic uses of it, it is given orally in combination with either aspirin or clopidogrel. So it is indicated for reduction of thrombotic cardiovascular events in patients with history of myocardial infarction or peripheral artery disease. So the adverse effect include it increases the risk of bleeding and is contraindicated in patients with a history of intracranial bleeding, stroke or transient ischemic attack. So the drug interaction, as it is a CYP3A4 substrate, potent CYP3A4 inducers like rifampin or rifampicin reduce drug exposure, while strong CYP3A4 inhibitors like the drug ketoconazole, they increase the drug exposure. Okay, reduce the drug exposure means what? What inducers do? Inducers, they increase the expression of the particular enzyme. Increase the expression means what? The number of enzyme molecules available to catalyze the reaction, they are more in presence of inducers. So as the number of C3A4 molecules are more amount of drug gets metabolized at one particular time in one particular period. And in case of the inhibitors, as they inhibit the particular enzyme, the drug, that is Vorapaxar, it is available for action for prolonged duration of time, thus it increases the drug exposure. So the antacids and pantoprazole, they reduce the drug exposure. Okay, so next drug category we have, that is glycoprotein 2B3A inhibitors. So as we have seen in earlier cases, this particular glycoprotein is responsible for it causes the platelet aggregation. Okay, it is a type of integrin. Okay, a type of protein that helps to connect the two things together. So it is platelet surface integrin, and it is designated as alpha 2b beta 3 by the integrin nomenclature. So there is a nomenclature like the one IUPAC, we have integrin nomenclature which gives name to the various integrins. Okay, the glycoproteins. So by its name becomes, it is alpha 2b beta 3. Okay, so this dimeric, why it is dimeric, you can see from the name itself. The one monomer is alpha monomer and another monomer is the beta monomer. So two monomers, they come together to form dimeric glycoprotein. So it undergoes conformational transformation when platelets are activated to serve as receptors for fibrinogen and von Willebrand factor. Okay, so which anchor the platelets to each other and thereby mediating aggregation. Okay, so thus inhibitors of this particular receptor, they are potent antiplatelet agents that act by mechanism which is completely distinct from that of the aspirin or the P2Y12 or PAR1 inhibitors. Okay, so we have the first drug in that is apixaban. Okay, so apixaban is a Fab fragment of humanized monoclonal antibody which is directed against the alpha 2b beta 3 receptor. So it also binds to the vitronectin receptor on platelets, vascular endothelial cells, and the smooth muscle cells. So this antibody is administered to patients who are undergoing percutaneous coronary intervention, and when used in conjunction with aspirin and heparin, it has been shown to prevent recurrent myocardial infarction and death. So the T half of this circulating antibody is about 30 minutes. So but antibody remains bound to the alpha 2b and beta 3 receptor, and it inhibits platelet aggregation. Okay, so adverse effects of apixaban is bleeding, and the contraindication to its use are similar to those of the fibrinolytic agents. So thrombocytopenia, that is the decreased number of platelets with platelet count below 50,000. It occurs in about 2% of the patients who are taking this particular drug, and it may be due to formation of antibodies which are directed against neoepitopes induced by the bound antibody. Okay, neoepitopes means epitopes which are formed newly, like de novo synthesis of it. Okay, because the duration of action is long, if major bleeding occurs, platelet transfusion may reverse the aggregation defect because free antibody concentrations fall rapidly after cessation of infusion. Okay, so next drug in that category is eptifibatide. Okay, so this eptifibatide, it is a cyclic peptide inhibitor of the fibrinogen binding site which is present on alpha 2b beta 3. It is administered intravenously and it blocks the platelet aggregation. So in patients who are undergoing percutaneous coronary intervention, eptifibatide is typically given as double intravenous bolus of 180 microgram per kg, which is spaced 10 minutes apart from the second dose, which is followed by infusion of 2 microgram per kg per minute for 18 to 24 hours. So 180 microgram per kg we have to inject at once, then we have to give a gap of like 10 minutes, and on the second instance we have to infuse this drug over the period of time, that is 18 to 24 hours. And what is the dose? That is 2 microgram per kg of body weight per minute. Okay, so the drug is cleared by the kidneys and it has short plasma life of 10 to 15 minutes. Like apixaban, eptifibatide is mainly used in patients who are undergoing primary percutaneous coronary intervention for acute ST segment elevation, then myocardial infarction, although it also can be used in patients with unstable angina. So next and the last drug which we haven't categorized as such, it is the dipyridamole. Okay, so what this dipyridamole do, it interferes with platelet function by increasing the intracellular concentration of cyclic AMP. We have already seen that the concentration of cyclic AMP, it is indirectly proportional to that of the platelet aggregation. If the intracellular concentration of cyclic AMP increases, platelet aggregation decreases. Okay, and what dipyridamole is doing is it is increasing the intracellular concentration of cyclic AMP. Okay, so this effect of the dipyridamole, it is mediated by inhibition of phosphodiesterase. Okay, so what is the function of this phosphodiesterase? Phosphodiesterase, it breaks down the CAM into its AMP, that is adenosine monophosphate, and this CAMP we get from the in presence of adenylyl cyclase from the ATP. Okay, so this particular uh, this particular drug, it inhibits the phosphodiesterase, and or it can have another action, that is by blockade of uptake of adenosine, thereby increasing dwell time of adenosine at cell surface adenosine A2 receptor that link to the stimulation of platelet adenylyl cyclase. Dwell time, it is a time for which it remains at that particular surface receptor. Okay, so this dipyridamole, it is a vasodilator that in combination with warfarin, it inhibits embolization from prosthetic heart valves. So dipyridamole, it is approved for secondary prevention of stroke when it is combined with low dose aspirin. Okay, so with this we have finished with the chapter, that is antiplatelet and the fibrinolytic agents. I hope that you understood it well, and we will just take a quick recap of the things. That is the fibrinolytic agents, they cause the lysis of the fibrin thread that holds the platelets together, and the examples of the drugs that we have seen, that is streptokinase, urokinase, and the tissue plasminogen activator. So out of it, the streptokinase, it requires a pro-activator so that it will form an activator which will convert the plasminogen to the plasmin, and the plasmin thus form, it will have either a fibrogenolysis action, or it will have the fibrinolysis action. Okay, the urokinase and the tissue plasminogen activator, they will directly will cause the conversion of plasminogen into plasmin, and thus we will have the lysis of the clot. Okay, so these fibrinolytic drugs, they are also called as the thrombolytic agents. And the next category of drugs that we have seen, that is antiplatelet agent, they just prevent formation of thrombus. So in any condition wherever there is possibility of formation of thrombus, these drugs, they prevent it. So the first drug we have seen, that is aspirin, it is a cyclooxygenase inhibitor, thus it inhibits formation of TXA2. Okay, second drug that we have seen is the clopidogrel. It inhibits P2Y12 receptor which is present on the platelet, and thus preventing the action of ADP on it. Then third category of drug we have seen, that is thrombin receptor inhibitor. These drugs, they inhibit action of thrombin onto the platelets and thereby prevent the platelet aggregation. The next category of drugs we have seen, that is glycoprotein 2B3A receptor inhibitors. These drugs, they, by inhibiting this particular glycoprotein, they cause or they prevent the aggregation of the platelets. And the last drug that we have seen, that is dipyridamole. It inhibits the phosphodiesterase enzyme, and thereby it inhibits or it increases the concentration of CAMP intracellularly, and which thus inhibits the platelet aggregation. Okay, and also it increases the dwell time of the ADP onto its surface receptor which is present on the surface of platelet, that is adenosine or ADP receptor A2. Okay, so that was all for the chapter, and that's it. Herewith I will conclude with my lecture. Thank you.